Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Operation Parents, How to Stand Up Against Bullying. My name is Mary Beth Huberti, and I'll be your presenter today. I'm just going to turn on my web camera and just give me a few seconds for this to kick in. And I just wanted to say hi and welcome you again. Today we're going to talk about, as I mentioned, how to stand up against bullying. And we're really going to take a look at just that bystander part today. We're not going to be discussing the bully person themselves or the victim. That'll come in subsequent webinars that we'll be doing. So I'm going to turn off my webcam and I'm going to turn over the webinar to Michelle Massey. Hold on, and she is on the controls here today and will be helping out with the background of the webinar. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Massey. I'll give you a quick wave. I'm on the program development and sales team here at Operation Parent. I'm going to walk you through the controls. Sorry about that. Gotcha. Okay, it's just a beautiful afternoon after our first cool fall morning here in Louisville, Kentucky. That's right, for those of you that aren't from here, that's how you say Louisville. You got to really draw it out and put some umph into it. I'm very excited that each of you are here to learn with us today. Just a couple of technical things on the background of our webinar. You have an orange tab up in the top right hand side of your screen, an orange arrow. If you tap on that, that will open up the control panel for you. This tab allows you to also minimize it if you'd like to see the PowerPoint in full screen. If you wish to click on the orange tab to also minimize it when you want to watch your full screen, as I said. But for now, click on the orange arrow tab and open your control panel to view all of the features. And I'll tell you about a couple of them. The first one is the question feature, which we'll be using mostly today. Now, you'll be muted during the presentation, but we would, however, like to hear from you via this question section. About halfway down the control panel, you'll see the question section. You will send both questions and comments here. There are 3 panels. The top panel will show you any questions you've already posted, and below that is another light blue panel where you can type your question and then send them to me privately. At the end of our presentation, we will take your final questions. We will conclude the presentation right at 30 minutes for those of you that need to hop right off, but we also invite you to stay on and ask any follow-up questions that you might have about our presentation today. Now let's try and use the question feature now. If you could, go to your question section and send me the name and where you're joining us from. Make sure you click on send the message to staff when you're finished. Okay, great. So give that a try. I see Sandy from Iowa, Jean from Pittsburgh, Cindy, how you doing? Glad you're with us. Amanda, thanks for joining in. Linda from Arizona, all the way out in Arizona. That's exciting. Okay, great, you guys. It looks like the question feature is working well for you today. Please use that should you have any technical difficulties during the webinar. We're not expecting that you will, but if you encounter anything, don't hesitate to let me know there. And then lastly, what I'd love to let you know is there's some extra resources available for you today in the handout section. So that's in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You've got 4 handouts there, the PDF of our presentation today, as well as a handout on how empowering bystanders can prevent bullying. And there's also a list of websites for your further study. You can just double-click on the handout to begin the download process at any time. And now I'm very excited to turn it back over to Mary Beth, who's an amazing facilitator and will go in detail on the topic of bullying today.
Thank you, Michelle. And again, everybody, please just keep in mind to go ahead and send any questions you have about the topic today to Michelle. She'll be watching, and then we'll just go over those questions at the end. All right, so let's go ahead and get started into our presentation today. For those of you that are new to Operation Parent, I just want to explain who we are. We are a nonprofit. We are located outside of Louisville, Kentucky, as Michelle stated so eloquently and using the right inflection on Louisville there. But we are a nonprofit providing ongoing education, support, and hope to those raising teens and preteens in today's culture. We really focus on what are those issues that parents need to know about, guardians need to know about while they're raising the youth in today's culture. Anything from the social media world, digital world, to drugs, alcohol, on to the mental health issues and legal issues that unfortunately so many of our youth encounter, but we as parents need to know about and be able to talk to them about and understand the boundaries we need to set. So that is who we are. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to just briefly go over, let's just be very clear on what is the definition of bullying, what are some current statistics about the people who are the bystanders of bullying, and then how does the witnessing bullying affect the bystanders? And then lastly, ways to stand up. How do we help our youth to stand up against this when they see it occurring, whether it's in school, in their neighborhood, teams, wherever they may be, where they actually encounter bullying itself. Okay, so be real clear with what is bullying. We know it to be aggression, cruel behavior. It can, it's unwanted. There is usually quite a few people involved in this issue. So as I mentioned, we're breaking down bullying to talk to the three different groups. Today we're going to talk about the bystanders, the witnesses, the ones who were there and see it, but they are not the bully, nor are they the victim, but they are the ones that are involved in this. But understand, again, bullying, there is an imbalance of power. There is somebody who believes they have power, or the kids have given them power, whether they say they're popular or they're big or they're the big strong kid, or maybe they are a bully because they're bringing it in from home and the kids perceive that power. So somebody has power and somebody does not. It is a repeated behavior, or there is going to be a potential for repeating this behavior. So we have a very clear balance that has gone out of whack. Somebody has got the power, the group is giving them the power, or they believe they have it. Somebody does not. Sometimes they're left all alone, or they used to be with the group and now they're not, and they have become the victim. This behavior has started and now it is going to continue. So it's willful behavior too. So whether they're the victim or the bully or the bystander, everybody's affected by this behavior, although the victim and the bully can have some long-lasting problems because of what they've encountered. So also, there's three types of bullying. We're not going to cover cyberbullying today. There's just not enough time. We're trying to keep these into short sessions. So we are not going to cover cyberbullying. We'll look to do that in future session. But just to be clear, there are three types of bullying. Verbal, these are the name callings, the gossiping, the whispers, the laughing behind somebody's back, making somebody the butt of the joke intentionally to hurt them, to humiliate them, to victimize them. There's social bullying, where somebody used to maybe belong to a group, but now they're not part of that group, but they're ostracized, or maybe they've never been part of the group, but they are on the outside looking in. That could be cutting them out intentionally, spreading rumors about them, setting them up to embarrass them socially so that they feel less than who they are. Then you have the physical bullying. This is your fights, you're picking on someone, pushing, hitting. So these are the different types of bullying, but we're talking about bullying today, not cyberbullying. All right, so let's just move on to discuss the witness, the person who is the bystander, the person who is standing there listening, watching the events occur, and how many of our youth are seeing this? Because we're talking about kids here. We're not talking about adult bullying. We're talking about bullying that's occurring in the school age, whether they're through kindergarten, through high school, or even in college. So statistically, 70 to 71% of our youth say that they have seen bullying in their school. That's a huge number. That is a almost three-quarters of the population of youth in school has said, yeah, I've seen it. I've seen bullying. But here's something that we also, research has shown that most parents and most kids don't know, that when a bystander, when the witness intervenes, they can stop bullying normally within 10 seconds, 57% of the time. So over half the time, if somebody intervenes in the very beginning of this process, they can put a stop to it. And so that's why we're talking about this, because we have a large number of our youth witness it and they don't know what to do, or they're not empowered to do anything. So this is where we come in as parents, caregivers, to try to teach them and talk to them about this. There is a lot of reasons why our kids do not speak up when they witness bullying. And so we need to understand that there are going to be times where our kids will tell us about bullying that's taken place at school. And we might ask, did you do anything? Did you say anything? And in that moment, if your child probably will say, no, I didn't know what to do. No, I didn't. No, I was, here's my reason why. Don't get mad at them. You want to say, okay, so what could you do? And we're going to talk more about that, but understand why they may not have stood up for the victim. And when I go out to talk to kids about, school kids about bullying or cyberbullying, here's the number one reason I hear from the kids why they don't stand up. They don't want to be the victim. They do not want to be the target of the bully. Maybe they have been the target of a bully and now they're not the target and somebody else is, and man, I don't want to be in their shoes again. Or I don't want to put myself there. I don't want to be retaliated against. So that is usually the big reason I hear, at least when I talk to kids, about why they don't stand up for the victim in a bullying situation. Also, in the group itself, there might be a pressure to keep it quiet. Don't shh, don't say anything, or everybody scatters when the teacher walks in or when anybody walks in, to keep it quiet. And amongst the witnesses and amongst the group, they might be pressuring each other to keep quiet. Nobody's going to say anything. For some kids, it is really a struggle. They can see it's wrong. Most kids will say, yeah, they know it's wrong. They don't like what's happening, but I don't know how to deal with it. I don't feel strong enough to stop it. So here I am watching this, but here I am also trying to figure out, well, what do I do? And if everybody's keeping quiet, sometimes that's, the comfort in the group. I'll just stay quiet too, but I don't know how to step out of that. Here's one that I hear a lot. You hear this saying that, and I may not get the saying perfectly right, but snitches end up in ditches. That this culture, that we even see it on TV and programs, in drama shows, where if somebody snitches or tells, they end up either hurt or worse. And so kids say that. I'll hear them say, snitches end up in ditches. Well, you hear that enough and you're a kid and you're thinking, I want to say something, but I'm also hearing this. Am I gonna say anything? And they have a real different opinion about what is snitching as opposed to what's reporting and telling. They equate them all the same. So we need to talk about that. That's one reason. Another reason. Here's another one. The teachers, whoever it is, the coach, or this person, a parent, they're not going to do anything anyway. And maybe they've gotten that assumption out of no reason at all. They just assume that. But in some cases, they've already known of other kids who have approached to an adult saying there's bullying going on and nobody has done anything. So if they see that enough times too, they'll automatically assume, why bother? Nobody's going to do anything, so I'm not going to tell an adult. So that's another big issue. Here's another one we hear. It's none of my business. I'm not part of that crowd. I'm not part of the crowd that's standing around watching, nor am I part of the crowd of the bully and the victim, so I'm just going to stay out of it. It's none of my business. And it's easy to say that and think, okay, I'm not joining in, but it's none of my business. And then you have the other reason, unfortunately, is they believe the victim deserved it. Not in all cases, but in some cases, where maybe the victim is annoying to them. Maybe, in their head, they've done something and they deserve it. So, what's the big deal? Maybe it'll stop them from being annoying, or maybe it'll stop them from this. Maybe the victim and the bully have switched places, and gosh knows that kid was the bully, now they're the victim, and man, they really deserve it. So you just don't know what the reasons are for a bystander not speaking up. But if you have the opportunity to talk to your kids and they're telling you about a bullying situation, just ask, well, did anybody stand up? Why wouldn't you stand up? And don't say it accusingly, just really out of curiosity. So you have an understanding of where they're coming from, why they may not have stood up against it. But at the same time, keep in mind, most bullying does take place inside the school. It's always going to take place away from the adults. If I have an audience and I'm going to be away from adults, that's where I'm going to go for. So probe them and ask them what's going on, because there is an impact on the bystanders, the witnesses. A lot of times they are dealing with feelings of fear, anxiety, guilt because I didn't do anything and I should have done something, or uncertainty because I didn't know what to do and it's just getting worse. So we need to understand that they're dealing with feelings too. Our kids that witness this, they might be afraid now, is it going to happen to me? Because boy, those two used to be friends and look what happened. Or, they joke around about this, but it may come back at me and start to feel the anxiety from this. So we need to understand that we've got to really talk to our kids and teach them ways to stand up. And asking the question, how would you stand up against bullying? Because some kids have really great ideas. Some kids may go, I have no idea. So make it small talks. This is not one of those, one and done kind of discussions where you say, oh, yep, I had a discussion on how they stand up against bullying and we're all done. These are small, continual talks. Discuss what they can do to stop the bullying, how they can do it safely. I'm not encouraging them to physically intervene, to stand between a fight, because that's not going to end well for anybody. But to understand that if they stand up, watch it, and laugh and join in and stand there, that encourages the bully. That means to the bully, you all approve of what I am doing. And that's what we need to communicate to our youth, that this is not right. So there's ways in order to stand up. And one of the biggest ways they can do is don't join in, don't laugh. Once the bully has a group behind them and they're all laughing, as I mentioned, and they're all joining in, and the bully continues. This is like positive behavior, positive reinforcement, and I'm on my way and I'm enjoying this and everybody else seems to be approving right behind me. So say, hey, I need you not to laugh. I need you not to join in on this. And in the same instance I need you to walk away. Can you walk away? What would it look like to walk away? And ask your child, do you think you could do that? And, encourage them and say, hey, if you're not joining in, you're not laughing, and you walk away, that's one less person that's encouraging the bully. Maybe tap a friend and say, hey, this is not cool. Come on, let's leave. At the same instance, you got the victim there who's in the middle of the bullying, and obviously this would take a lot of courage, a lot of empowerment for your child to be able to walk up to the victim in the moment when the bully's going at them, maybe saying things, making them feel bad, to walk over to the victim and go, hey, so-and-so needs to see you right now down the hall. Come on, I'll take you. They sent me to come get you. I'll take you. To encourage them to get the victim out of the way, to move them away from the situation. And that way the victim's not alone, you're diffusing the situation and walking away from it at the same time. If you really know the bully and you have that power in that to be able to say, hey, you need to stop it. It doesn't mean that you're saying stop it right in the heat of the moment, because that may not go so well. But at the same time, when you're sitting next to the bully in a class or walking down the hall, is to look at them and just say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. It's not cool. You need to stop. You really need to stop, and encourage the friends to say the same thing. You need to stop. Here's one, is to get an adult. And this is one, we talk to the kids all the time about telling an adult, who are the adults in your life you can tell. They'll obviously say their parents, their caregivers, a teacher, maybe a counselor, maybe the resource officer at middle schools and high schools, a coach, anybody. Tell an adult. But at the same time, the adult has to be willing to get involved then, has to do something. So we break that cycle of the adult's never going to do anything anyway. But we know that most victims of bullying do not tell. So we need the kids to tell an adult. Get an adult involved in this. Um, some schools, not all schools, some schools, this is starting, have a text number that they're promoting within their school where the kids can text that this bullying situation is going on to get help immediately. Now, that is not all schools, and I'm really telling you that there is just a few schools out there that are doing this, but they're doing it as part of a big bullying program to stop bullying, and they're empowering the youth to say, hey, if you see this going on the campus of school, you can text this number, and that tells somebody at the school immediately this is happening, and they can come and intervene, where they can do this without somebody knowing they are the ones that told, which keeps them anonymous, which is what you want. You don't want everybody to know your child's the one who intervened here. Let's keep them anonymous, but let's get the information to the adult immediately. Again, request other bystanders to stand up to. Talk to the friends in the group and say, hey, this isn't cool. When he or she starts doing this, we need to walk away. We need to get the victim out of the way, but get the friends together to say, you know, we're not going to let this continue. And again, support the victim. Normally the victim's alone. For whatever reason, they are alone socially, or they just are now because they've become the victim and everybody's staying away from them. There could be a number of reasons why they are the victim. But here's the thing. It's kindness that that person needs. They need somebody to say hi to them, walk them down the hall so that they're not alone, so the bully is not going to have the opportunity, or have them sit with them at lunch. You know, just sit at our table. Therefore, the bully won't come to you, because when you're alone, you're vulnerable, but when you're with the group, you're not. The group will be your protection. So it's to support the victim. How can you support the victim? And ask and talk with your kids. What's ways you can support the victim here to help them deal with the situation that they're in? So they are just some of the ways to teach them. Here's something else. Going back a little bit, we talked about snitching, and snitches end up in ditches. There is a vast difference between reporting and telling. Reporting or telling are two different interchangeable words, and tattling and snitching. Because when somebody reports or tells, they are telling because they want to keep somebody safe. In this case, it's keeping the victim safe, because that person needs somebody to help them to keep them safe. So you need help from an adult. That's why you are telling. To tell is to help, or to report is to help. This is, they're recognizing that this is an important issue, that something harmful is happening, or it could be dangerous, but the behavior that they're reporting on is on purpose. Somebody is choosing to do this behavior, and an adult needs to know in order to keep somebody else safe. So reporting is different than snitching or tattling. Tattling is getting in somebody in trouble just because you want to. Now keep this in mind. This, I always joke with the kids, but this is true. We're around, you know, around Halloween when everybody's getting their candy. If your younger brother or sister, older brother or sister ate all your candy, you're going to go tell the parent because you want to get them in trouble. So this is a minor thing. It's harmless, but you're just mad and you want to get them in trouble. That is different. That's tattling. That's snitching. So please explain to your kids the difference between reporting and telling, and tattling and snitching, because they are not the same, and we need to encourage them to do something different here. So what should we teach our youth? What we really need to start with is to be empathetic, to teach them how to be empathetic. They are not going to come with an empathetic ability from the get-go. It's just not there. Their center is themselves right at this age, right? So we need to be able to start talking to them in ways of, how do you think the victim felt? How would you feel if you were the victim right then? How would you feel if somebody said those things about you? How would you feel? Can you understand how that person is feeling right now? And what you're teaching them is to feel somebody else's pain, to feel their emotions, so they can understand that feeling, and then that would encourage them to be willing to speak up for others. So to train our children to be more empathetic is the first step, is to take those chances and say to them, how do you think they felt in that moment? How would you feel? You know, whether it's good or bad, just put them in those shoes where they can think about others, and then say, would you want somebody to help you in that moment? Because if they say, yeah, I really would like somebody to stood up for me, now, You're moving them in the right path where now they can see that I can do this. I think I could speak up for that person. And we talked about ways that I can do it. I can do that. And that's what we want. We want to teach our youth too that bullying is unacceptable, whether it's happening in school, on teams, in your community, in your neighborhood, in your own home. It's not acceptable. That behavior is not acceptable. And we need to treat each other with respect because bullying is disrespectful and it's harmful and it needs to be reported and stopped. If we can get that through our children and continue to support that and find out how the school deals with bullying so that together you're working on this together, we can make a big difference. But keep in mind that if we can get our youth who witness bullying to step in and stop it in the beginning, they have a better chance of stopping it half the time. That's a big, big number. So I encourage you, can talk to your kids about this. Another way you can continue this conversation about bullying is through our parent handbooks. We have an elementary version that is available for you to purchase. In elementary version, we talk about things like bullying, coping skills, friendships. Just what are some of those discussions you can have with your elementary child, especially K through 4th, 5th grade? What are those conversations about those things so that you can get them to start thinking about that? We also have our middle and high school editions, and our middle and high school editions really go into a lot more topics. These are our more robust program handbooks that go over about 40 different topics. We have a Christian edition, a Spanish edition, and then our secular editions. This is secular, Christian, and Spanish editions. And these all go over 40 different topics, anything from drugs and alcohol world, social media, emotional health, legal issues, but every page deals with one topic: trends, misconceptions, where do I go for more help, what are those warning signs. This is a great way to sit down and read the pages on bullying and cyberbullying and have a discussion. Talk about the warning signs, talk about what you could do, and allow this to become a conversation. If you're interested in purchasing our parent handbooks, you can order them directly online at operationparent.org or call our office at the number on the screen, and we'd be more than happy to help you with that. And as we continue on with our webinar program, we are going to have 2 more webinars, as I mentioned, on bullying. So we talked about witness, how do you teach them to stand up? In the next segment of our webinar in November, on November 10th at 2 o'clock, we're going to talk about supporting the victim. What do we do if we are trying to help a victim? How do we help them? How would we know that they're a victim of bullying? Our guest speaker will be Holly O'Lowen from the Brook Hospital here in Louisville, Kentucky. And then in December 13th at 2 o'clock, we are going to continue and finish up the series with what do you do if your child is the bully? So we'll have Dr. Tony Shepard here to talk about that. So I encourage you to come visit us and join us for the last 2 webinars on this topic of bullying. You can register for our webinars if obviously you found the place, but if you received it through an email, you could also go online to operationparent.org. Our homepage on the right-hand side, a little further down, you will see upcoming events with the links right to the webinar. So I just encourage you to invite other people if you enjoy this webinar. And also to keep in mind, we will have a short survey being sent to you when this webinar concludes today. I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle to see if there's any questions that we can answer for you.
Yes, ma'am. We do have one question so far, so if you have something on your mind, go ahead and send it now. The one question we have at this point is it okay for me to share the PDF with my PTO members on our blog?
Yes, yes, yes. I don't have a problem with you sharing the PDF. That is never a problem. If you are interested in having Operation Parent come out to your school to do a presentation, whether to the students or parents, just give us a contact also, and that is something that we offer as community presentations. Any other questions? Nope. Hey, we are right at the 2:30 mark. So again, I encourage you, there'll be a short survey coming to you. Just answer those few questions to help us improve our webinars here. If you do have any additional questions that you would like answered privately, feel free to email me directly at marybeth, MARYBETH, at operationparent.org, and you can send that directly to me and I will answer your questions. Again, thank you so much for being here today and hope to see you at the next webinar.